Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. I hope you're all having a very good Thursday, wherever you're watching or listening to today's episode around the world. Getting closer to the weekend now. Big game coming up for Arsenal at West Ham. Mikel Arteta will be holding his press conference at London Colney tomorrow. Sorry. I'm gonna. No, I'm not even sorry. It's not the Shoba Training Centre, Shoba Realty Training Centre. It's London Colney. It always will be London Colney. So yes, anyway, Mikel Arteta is having his press conference at London Colney tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. That is scheduled for, so we'll hear the latest from him, hopefully get some updates on team news, Gabriel Jesus, Fabio Vieira, maybe, players like that. We'll find out what's going on with all those guys. Interesting to see what the mood has been like at London Colney following that fantastic win against Liverpool at the weekend. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this show, who could well be starting that game, some of the decisions facing Mikel Arteta. Talk about Marquinhos as well, whose move to Brazil is edging closer. According to Fabrizio Romano, Jurrien Timber's been speaking about the difficulties he's faced as he continues to fight back from this cruciate ligament injury that he suffered on the opening day of the season. He's very close now to return, which is really exciting news. So plenty for us to get cracking on today. We'll start with Jurrien Timber. Sorry, we'll start with Marquinhos, who I was speaking about in yesterday's show, actually talking about how it was expected that once the sort of the Olympics qualifying that is currently competing in for the Brazilian under-23 team is out of the way, then his loan move to Brazil should be wrapped up pretty quickly. Been in talks with a few clubs over there, Arsenal, about a loan deal. Quite a bit of interest in the young winger. Fluminense and Corinthians were the two clubs that I was told about. And Romano here is saying now that Fluminense have agreed on a loan deal to sign Marquinhos from Arsenal. He says a verbal pact is in place to be completed in the coming days. Marquinhos has already accepted, just waiting on the final formal steps. Deal will include a buy option clause from AFC, which is what I heard as well, that the buy option was definitely going to be part of this deal. I don't think it's done. Certainly not last time I was speaking to someone about it. It wasn't done. It was still to be kind of finalised, which I suppose is what Romano is saying here. But yeah, it's looking very likely that will be happening. It'll be heading off to Brazil. And I don't know the figures on the deal yet, but you would think that Arsenal, you would certainly hope if the deal does go through and it does include a buy option and that buy option does end up getting triggered, then you would hope Arsenal certainly make a little bit of a profit on him. I can't imagine it'd be a huge profit, but you would imagine it would certainly be a bit of a profit. And sometimes that's all you got to do with these deals. You know, some of them work, some of them don't, but if you can at least turn a profit on those deals, then you've done yourself all right. Marquinhos was always kind of a let's sign him and see type signing. It was never going to be a foregone conclusion he was going to come over and be a success. Obviously, he's tipped as the next Martinelli when you make a signing like that, which is always a very easy thing to label a player with. But yeah, he was very raw. Arsenal knew that when they got him. He made a big impact early on, looked like he could maybe cut it and make a career for himself in the Premier League. Didn't quite work out, didn't really kick on after that bright start. Had a couple of loan spells that didn't work out as well. So maybe a move back to Brazil, to his native homeland, is what he needs to really get himself going. And so as Romano says, that should be completed relatively quickly. But because it's a deal happening with a Brazilian club, there is no absolute rush. I think their transfer window shuts in March. So it's not like, obviously our transfer window shut last week and there was a bit of a rush to get things done in terms of that. But it's just, you're not working to that sort of time scale when it comes to this deal. So they're not desperately trying to beat the clock to get this signing done, but I'm sure it will be happening. The fact he was left out of the Champions League squad as well yesterday, which I spoke about in the show, I think that spoke volumes about how confident Arsenal are that this deal will go through in the next, next couple of weeks, perhaps, something like that. So Marquinhos on his way out of Arsenal. One player who could be on his way in. We'll wait and see. I don't want to add to any speculation when it comes to Ivan Toney, because there's a lot of stuff still to happen when it comes to him and where he's going to end up. But Arsenal obviously going to be a club mentioned heavily with Ivan Toney. There have been a club who've been mentioned heavily with Ivan Toney for some time now. We do know that he's a player that they like and they are looking at when it comes to signing this striker that we're all desperately waiting to see who Arsenal bring in. And Toney is at the top. Thomas Frank's been speaking about Toney's future, says it is relatively obvious that Ivan Toney will probably be sold this summer. We also know what he is worth. I don't think there are many strikers in the world who are better than him right now. He is a really skilled striker who is in his prime football age. Personally, as a coach, I would prefer to keep Toney, but one day it could be fun to see him in a top team. This winter, we actually had no offers for him, but it will surprise me if there aren't a lot of clubs that will be interested in him. Yeah, I'm not surprised that there were no bids for him this winter with everyone having the financial issues that they had. I don't think anyone was in a position to pay the sort of money that Brentford were asking for when it came to Ivan Toney come the summer. I mean, these comments have caused quite a bit of a stir over here in England, what Thomas Frank has been saying. I don't know why, because I think it's pretty blatantly obvious that what he's saying is correct. I think we all know it. Maybe it's a surprise sometimes when managers come out and say things so publicly like this. But it's no surprise, is it? I think we all know that Ivan Toney is going to go somewhere. We can't see any way really he stays at Brentford. And even if he did, I can't imagine he would sign his contract. So it would be a case of seeing out his final year at Brentford. But Brentford, from a business point of view, doesn't really make any sense for them to allow that to happen. So if there is a market for Ivan Toney, which we fully expect there will be, then he's going to go this summer. When Frank sits there, though, and says, we also know what he is worth, I don't think there are many strikers in the world who are better than him right now. I think that also shines a light on the kind of bargaining position Brentford are going to put themselves in when it comes to negotiations with anyone for Ivan Toney. You know, a year left in his contract. I think he's 27 or 28 now. If they realistically think they're going to get around £100 million for Ivan Toney in the summer, they might end up disappointed. I don't think there will be many clubs banging the door down, especially when finances are so tight now and profit and sustainability is such a thing in football now that you're going to have clubs absolutely banging down the door of Brentford saying, okay, we're going to give you £100 million for this striker with 12 months left on his deal, who is approaching 30, might well be in his prime right now, but there's going to be very little resale value on him. Whether Arsenal go anywhere near the sort of value that Brentford would want for Toney, we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, he is a striker that they like. We know that, but there's plenty of other strikers around Europe at the moment which they will like as well and which will be on the list. So I don't think it's far from a foregone conclusion that Ivan Toney ends up at Arsenal by any means. But still interesting comments from Thomas Frank nonetheless. And let me know your thoughts on it all about Marquinhos' move. How you think that has panned out for Arsenal with Marquinhos or Ivan Toney? You know, do you think they should be in the running for Ivan Toney come the summer? Do you think he's worth potentially £100 million or not? Let me know anything about those two stories in the comments below. Right, Jurrien Timber's been speaking about his return. A really good piece actually went up on the Arsenal website yesterday. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link to the interview in the description below. Well worth a read. There's some interesting stuff from him. He talks about everything, about his family, his brothers, growing up as a twin, playing football with his brother, you know, through the teams he's been with in Holland and then coming over to England. And of course, he's been talking about his recovery and the injury he suffered and how tough that has been for him. And it must have been so tough. It really must have been. It'll be interesting to see if Arsenal release a documentary. We know we like their sort of documentaries that they do when they follow an injured player through sort of every step of his rehab. We saw it first of all, I think, with Bellerin, didn't we? And they've done similar with other players as well. Gabriel Jesus had one. It'd be very interesting to see if they do on Jurrien Timber, especially given he just arrived at the club. He was on it, basically, you know, got his dream move. He just moved over here, his first game in the Premier League, and he suffers that injury. Now, how he dealt with that mentally off the pitch in a new country, in a new city, in a new club with new teammates, it must have been incredibly difficult. And it'd be a really interesting documentary series if Arsenal did do that. I have no idea if they did or not. But this is what he had to say about the recovery. He said, look, of course, at some points it's been difficult because you're not playing. And that's the thing that you love to do. Sometimes you really want to join the team when you're enjoying the game so much. You really want to get down there and be part of it. That's frustrating because sometimes it looks so amazing. You want to be a part of it. But I use that as a motivation during my recovery. I see the boys a lot at the training ground, but also at games. And that's been good for me too. These months will definitely make me stronger. It's an opportunity for me to do well. So even though I'm not playing, I can take this moment to become stronger mentally, physically, and also to feel at home with this group of boys. It's an opportunity I've taken with both hands. I've had some more time to watch the team, see how they play, how I can fit in when I go on the pitch. So looking at the positives, I think there have been many. It's a really good sort of mindset to have as a player. And you speak to Mikel Arteta about Jurrien Timber and what he's been like during this injury rehab process. And Arteta talks so glowingly about him and the way he's approached it and basically what Timber's been saying there, how he's tried to use it as a positive to get to know the team, to get to know how they play. He's been at all the games, he watches them. You always see him at the Emirates after the match, going down the tunnel and around in the mix zone area and things like that. It could have been easy, I suppose, to feel sorry for yourself and almost drift away a little bit from the team and from the club while you're working on your recovery. But he's really thrown himself into it and been around the place constantly. And you see him in the dressing room. I mean, he's in the dressing room after the game at the weekend. And he's always there. And I think that's a really good thing. And hopefully it will be used as a real positive, as he says there. In terms of his recovery, obviously, we're getting there. We're getting closer. As I spoke about yesterday, the fact he's been named in the Champions League knockout stages squad is a good thing. It's another sign that Arsenal really do believe he's hopefully going to be able to make some sort of impact on this season. I don't think, we're not talking about 2 weeks away from suddenly making his debut. He's not going to be playing in Porto, for example, in a couple of weeks' time, but he is getting there. And that's a really, really good thing. And I can't wait to see him in action. But having said all that, and I've mentioned it many a times, there's got to be no pressure put on Jurrien Timber to perform. It's probably going to be next season when we see him at his best, or looking anywhere near close to his best that we saw from him last summer when he arrived at the club and looked so good and like he'd settled so quickly. It's going to take time. You've got to work on it mentally. It's a big barrier to pass when you come back from an injury like that, going into your first couple of games, going into your first few sprints, really putting pressure on that leg in the high intensity of a Premier League game. So it's not just a physical thing, it's a mental thing as well he's got to deal with. So you just don't want to put too much pressure on him to hit the ground running straight away and be this player that we saw in the summer straight away. It's going to take a while, but I thought they were really interesting comments from Jurrien Timber, and the whole piece is a really good thing to have a look at. So in the description below you can find the link to the Arsenal website. I love the fact that Arsenal put out yesterday a piece on their website of like the top moments when players picked up cameras and took photos. It just felt like a right Sodja type message to everyone who was having a go at Martin Odegaard taking a photo of Stuart on the pitch. Okay, looking ahead to the game against West Ham on Sunday, some big decisions for Mikel Arteta to make in terms of who plays and who doesn't. Midfield is going to be really, really interesting to see who lines up there. But I also thought up front is going to be really, really interesting. We don't know, of course, what's happening with Gabriel Jesus yet, whether he's going to be fit for this game. So we'll wait and see on that. If he's not, then what do you do as a central striker? For me, I think Kai Havertz keeps his place. I think he's done more than enough to keep his place. I thought he was excellent against Liverpool. Such a really, really difficult game against two top centre-backs in Konate and Van Dijk. He gave them real difficulties throughout, especially in the second half. It was him who got Konate sent off. Konate just couldn't deal with him in the end. And although he didn't take his chance, the one sort of big chance he got, obviously, when it was saved and Saka scored, his all-round game was absolutely excellent. And I just think he deserves to keep his place. If Jesus isn't there, I wouldn't be going with Nketiah for this one. I'd certainly be keeping Havertz there. I just think I feel so much more comfortable with Havertz when he's there. He just looks more comfortable. And I think Arsenal as a team play really, really well when Havertz is in that central striker's role. And it allows you to then play, do whatever you want in midfield, whether it be Jorginho, whether it be Smith Rowe. So for me, Havertz keeps his place in that side. And I think Tomiyasu certainly, if he's fit, having come back from Asian Cup, then Tomiyasu comes in at left back if Zinchenko is, as expected, sitting this one out. But let me know your thoughts below. Who do you think should start this game? Would it be Havertz? Would it be Nketiah? If, of course, Jesus isn't ready to go. Okay, moving on to some questions and comments now. Paul here's got in touch. Hi, Paul. You say, hi, Charles. After talking about defenders in yesterday's show, for me personally, I think signing Hato would be perfect for us, who as a player is young, has already gained a lot of experience by playing regularly, not just in the Dutch league, but in Europe as well. Also being captain of Ajax with Timber being here, it would make him easier to settle in. Yeah, look, excellent talent. Looks like an exceptional player. I haven't seen loads of him, I fully admit, but what I have seen looks good, and what people I've spoken to about him suggests that he's a really, really talented young player. And obviously we know that Arsenal like him and are tracking him. Whether they actually manage to sign him in the summer, that remains to be seen. But it could well happen. I wonder if you sign someone like Hato, though. I wonder what that means for Kivior. I wonder if, potentially you'd look to move Kivior on to make room in the squad for Hato. I feel there's space for one more, but I always think there's space for one more because you always want one more in your squad, don't you? But I think when you actually sort of look at it, if Tomiyasu's back as well, of course, and Timber comes back and he's fit, and you sign Hato, do you really need Kivior, another left-sided centre-back? I'm not sure. And I wonder if you there will be interest in Kivior in the summer. I'm absolutely sure of it. There's been interest basically since he arrived at Arsenal. There's been interest from Italy in taking him back there. There was interest in the January window. Arsenal wouldn't even entertain that. But I do wonder if they really push for Hato and it becomes realistic that they could actually get him. I wonder what that means for Kivior. I wonder if it'd be a case of one out and one in come the summer. Yeah, so that could be an interesting one. Rob Carr. I can't. I'm really sorry, mate. I'll just call you Rob. Call you Rob. Hopefully that's fine. You say, hi, Charles. 2 questions from me. Do you see Arsenal continuing to spend big in the summer like in previous summers, or will FFP be a concern? Also, loved your book. Thank you very much. Do you have any future ambitions of writing another? Not so much right now. No, although I've got to update the book that I've wrote, obviously Revolution. I'm doing the paperback comes out at the end of this season. I've got to do a bit of an update for that. So sort of freshen it up a little bit, include stuff that's gone on this season. So that's coming out in summer. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But in terms of a whole new book, then right now, no, not right now. I certainly wouldn't rule it out in the future because I did enjoy it, but it was pretty tiring, pretty mentally draining. So I would certainly have a break for now. In terms of Arsenal continuing to spend big in the summer, yes, I fully expect that they're going to go again in the summer. You know, they kept their powder dry in January because of the issues that they were facing, not just them, lots of clubs. But, you know, come the summer, there's going to be the new Emirates deal kicks in. You've got your Champions League money banked for the season, provided Arsenal, which looks likely, qualify again for the Champions League. They're going to have that sort of safety net there of knowing there's more Champions League money coming in. And so, yes, I fully expect that they will go. They will go again, and they will make some significant signings come the summer. So, yes, I expect it to be a exciting one from an Arsenal fan point of view. Here's one from HFN 3778. It says, where is Fabio Vieira? Last seen him in Dubai training photos 4 weeks ago. He's more than a month overdue recovery from his groin surgery. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to London Colney tomorrow for Mikel's press conference because I've got some stuff at home that I need to sort out tomorrow. So I'm not going to be able to get there, I don't think, because if I was, I'd be very interested to actually ask this question about where Fabio Vieira is. He was at the game at the weekend. He was down in the dressing room after the match with the players. And like you said, he was over in Dubai, but I've not seen him around since then in terms of sort of being close or on the training pitch or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see if there is a bit of an update from Mikel on Fabio Vieira. But yeah, the plan last time I spoke to someone, he was like, oh, he was a couple of weeks away. But it's been a couple of weeks since that and still no sign of him. So maybe he comes back this week. I don't know. But yeah, unfortunately, if I wasn't London Colney tomorrow, this is be a bit of a thing that I'd be looking to ask Mikel Arteta because I think it's quite interesting to find out the latest update on Fabio Vieira. So unfortunately, I can't really clear it up too much right now. But next time I am at Colney, if we haven't heard from him, haven't heard anything about him yet, then it will be something I'll put to Mikel, see what he has to say about that. Here's one from CJN. Joku1 says, hi, Charles. Brilliant content. I've been watching since Thomas Partey tricked us all on deadline day. What a day that was. My question for the show is, do you feel Arteta will be a manager to stay for 15 plus years, as he seems to be building such a young team and this is his first ever managerial job? I also feel the story behind him is so special, bringing us from the dead. I feel he may be able to replicate a Wenger, especially with the relationship he has with Kroenke and Edu. No, personally, I don't see him being a 15 plus year manager at Arsenal. I expect him to be a 15 plus year manager in the game, but no, I don't think it'd be a good thing either. I don't really want to see another Wenger type managerial appointment unless it's just hugely successful and wins everything season after season. Then yeah, by all means keep him. But if you don't, and I don't think there's anyone in this era, certainly while Manchester City are as strong as they are, that you're going to win everything year after year. So I do think you probably have to shake things up a little bit from time to time. So I don't think he'll be a 15 plus years manager, and I don't think he should be. I think he'll be here for another few years. Yeah, I think he'll sign another contract and he'll really push to get Arsenal to where he wants them to be because they're not there yet. But I think he will move on and he will try things new. He's an ambitious man. He's definitely got ambitions to manage in Spain. I know that. And so I do think he'll move on at some point, but no time soon anyway. Here's one from no name, just a user handle name. Says, strangely, my takeaway from the Liverpool game was that we need to look at the left wing. An additional player with speed is necessary to replace Martinelli at about 80 minutes when he looks like he has spent every last ounce of his energy. Trossard is a wonderful player who is the first name on the list for me against opponents who play tight and narrow. He's awesome in tight spaces, but where the play is more open and speed is the main need, he is not so great. Scores often enough, though. We need to strengthen the sixth position. Georgie and Partey are great at the moment, but you can see their light dim in the next couple of seasons. I'm sad that you think Walters is going. With some time in the team, I think he's a player that can be brought through. I mean, he could be, yes, but Arsenal have got White, Tomiyasu and Timber. And so, I mean, where does Walters fit into that? You've got 3 top quality right backs there. So where does Walters fit in? I'm just not sure he does. It's kind of very similar to Lino Souza on the left side. When you look at who Arsenal have options at left back, I just don't really see that. So that's why I think Walters will probably end up going. I agree about the winger. I don't necessarily think it has to be a left-sided winger. I think either side does. I mean, I've spoken about it before. I think Pedro Neto is absolutely perfect for Arsenal. The pace that you talk about, I think, is really, really important. I think it's a great point. I think Arsenal do lack that when it's not Martinelli or Saka. They don't really have anyone else who's absolutely lightning quick, and Pedro Neto is that. He can play on the right, he can play on the left, he gives you options on both sides, he can play centrally as well. And I just think he's absolutely perfect for Arsenal. I'd be throwing a lot of money towards Wolves this summer to try and sign Pedro Neto. I just think he's perfect. So while I don't think I agree with what you're saying about certainly a winger and needing pace, I don't think it necessarily has to be someone who just covers Martinelli. I think it could be either side. And I think Pedro Neto is absolutely that man. All right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time, as always. Do appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow, I think, Inside Arsenal Extra Time with James Benge. I'm filming that later today. That's going to go out tomorrow morning, though, because, like I said, I've got some stuff around the house I've got to sort out tomorrow, which is why I can't go to London Colney. And I'm not going to be able to record anything in the morning. So I'm going to record Inside Arsenal Extra Time today, this afternoon, and I'm going to put that out in the morning. Then hopefully I will be around in the afternoon to at least watch the press conference, and then I'll pop back on and do a video after that talking about what Mikel Arteta has had to say. Lots of you have already been getting in touch with your Inside Arsenal Extra Time questions. I collated loads of those from yesterday, so thank you very much for that. If any more of you want to get in touch and get them, you're going to have to do it very, very quickly because, like I said, I'm recording in just a couple of hours' times now with James Benge. But you know what to do. Extra time in the comment, and then your question, opinion, whatever, just down below. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.